Hey everybody, I'm sorry, I'm just waiting on Tanya, and I'm trying to get myself situated. So just give me a few minutes. Okay, Tanya, can you hear me?
Yes, I was on the other one.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
am I? Is it echoing?
Uh-uh. Do you guys hear echo? Let us know if you hear echo before I start. How's everybody night?
How are you?
Okay, I'm exhausted.
I bet.
I tried to take a 30-minute nap, and now I'm grouchy.
Uh-oh. No pina colada.
My niece is sitting up here. Do I need to make you a drink?
Maybe you should have a cocktail.
I probably should. I probably should. I'm just giving it like 2 more minutes.
So today was.
Today was good.
That's the one word to use for today is good.
Today was good. And I heard from like several people, you guys, that they reporting good stuff. They reporting the defense side and saying that the government's case is not as dunk as they thought it was. So
I, I heard
today
that
was a
too.
good day. Where'd you hear that? Nova said you have an echo, Tanya.
Yeah, I know. I thought so.
I
Hold
don't
on.
hear it.
I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Tiffany said, or some milk. She making me some milk as we speak.
I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Okay, do I gotta send the link again?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
You can start up, but I'm coming right back.
Is that milk? I think I got one up in there. The simply one. Yeah. Mm, Let me let her come back in. How everybody doing tonight? Hey, Marshall. I got my cake. I ain't got no milk. Huh? Do what you gotta do. Let me hold on, you guys. Let me maybe send her the link again. Tania said, Daddy, I need another R. Kelly shirt. You know what? It's funny you say that because my niecey, the one that be going to court with me when she off, and the one who's here now, she actually makes all of that stuff for me. She made me a nice little pillow for my birthday with his with R. Kelly's pictures on it. So if you need that, let me know, and I'll let her know. I'll forward you her information on her Instagram, or she could do it while I'm here, actually. Okay, hold on. Let me let Tanya back in. Okay, Tanya.
I'm here. I'm still echoing. I'm gonna have to take my headphones off. I won't say anything until I get it fixed, but you can go ahead and start.
Okay, hold on. Come on, go on your phone and go on my live. Get in the chat because Tennille is asking about t-shirts. She wants your information for the R. Kelly t-shirts, like my pillow and stuff. So I'm telling her to come into the chat, Tennille, so she can talk to you on here. Tori, you said who, Dottie? My niece. Barbara, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. What's your name on there so I can let them know? Just comment. Okay, so today, you guys, they started the cross-examination. Remember yesterday we left off with Lawrence. He was the lie detector test guy. So we left off with him yesterday. McDavid started the cross-examination. McDavid says, okay, so you're basically a voice stress analyzer. He says, correct. You testified to in 2001. He asked you testify to a case in 2001. He said yes. That he was the person that did the stress analyzer test. They asked to set this up, you were contacted by an attorney. He said yes. You're a former police officer, correct? Yes. The attorney that contacted, so he said, so you're saying that an attorney contacted a police officer? Yes. And he met you in the lobby? Yes. And he also had, so if you guys recall yesterday, the analyst had said that when the person, the person that met him in the lobby was an attorney, and he said he described two big black guys that kind of look like bodyguards, where they were actually two off-duty police officers. So today he says yes. Well, he said, so that's a total of 3 people that was conducting this test. Yes. The attorney asked, do you do this often? I'm sorry. He said the attorney asked you to do this, though, correct? Yes. He said you testified that he pulled the video out and he left it on the table. Yes. He said, and did you watch it? No. The subject he said, but in the subject, which is the person that was taking the test, had no problem with leaving that tape with you. He said no. And no one else watched this tape in front of you. He said no. He said, and then you said that there was another polygraph examiner that was waiting to test him after you. And he said yes. And he said, okay, nothing further. So I think they was just trying to establish the fact that there was an attorney and also 3 different police officers that was there in possession of this video, and they're gonna say it later, but right then I knew, okay, if you hold that position, you're like a mandated reporter. So what David McDavid's attorneys was trying to get at, but no one reported this video. So then Milton Brown attorney cross-examined, and they asked, you were being questioned about. They started questioning him about being questioned with the agents twice before he testified today, which was in July 23rd of 2020. And they questioned him about things that had happened at that meeting. They said, you did your best to remember who was there. He said yes. They also brought pics, about 10 pictures of you, and at that meeting you didn't recognize any of those individuals. He said correct. You didn't identify any of those photos of being Milton Brown. No. You don't know Milton Brown. He said correct. He wasn't at that meeting. Correct. How much did you get paid for your services? He said for $400. And you spoke with an unnamed attorney. You spoke with an unnamed attorney that told you that he was paying $200K to a certain individual. Yes. Did you see the $200,000? No. He said, I saw a gym bag, but I didn't see any money. You testified that the subject wouldn't give his name. Yes. You told the subject that if he cooperated, at that time you told the subject that if and only if he cooperated, he would get the $200,000. He cooperated in allowing you to give the test, then he would get the $200,000. At that point, the subject began to cooperate, correct? Yes. What occurred to have you leaving the police department? And he basically just said I think they did like a raid, and he found a gun, and it was a particular Smith & Wesson. I forgot what year. And so basically, instead of him turning that gun into evidence, he kept the gun. And then somehow, for some reason, I don't know how he got caught. I guess the serial numbers or something on the gun came back to the gun being stolen. And basically, he stole the gun. He took the gun home, and instead of turning it into evidence. And so he basically retired from the police force before he was actually fired. They asked, why would you steal this gun? And he says, because he collects guns. He has about 90 or more guns, and he just, it was a collector for him. And then they had nothing further. At this time, Bonjean does her cross-examine, and she says, no one ever told you who the entertainer was. He says, yes, the attorney did. She said, okay, well, do you remember in the interview with the state's attorney in July of 2020, you said that the attorney said he was working on behalf of a prominent person, and they told you, hold on a second. And they told you a name. They told you the name you didn't need to know. Well, he told them the name he didn't need to know. And then he says, no, I told them I didn't know the name because I didn't know who R. Kelly was. He said, I told them over the phone it was a prominent person. But he also said, I told them if they told me the name, I would recognize them. So she stopped her questions there. The next witness was a witness that actually reported from Kansas City. He was actually at Homeland Security. His name was John Herlock. He's also a former police officer. He's a polygraph technician, and he gives a brief description on his background and his expertise. He says around August 2001, he was hired to administer a polygraph exam. He received a call from Jack Palladino. asking him to conduct this polygraph. He was to meet his client in a downtown Kansas City hotel in a conference room to conduct the exam. From the time of the call to when he did the exam, he couldn't really recall how much time had passed. They asked him, "What do you actually need to know about the subject matter in order to perform the test?" And he said, a little bit more or less, pretty much just what the charges are. And he said, the more info you have, the better it is to test. He said he arrived at the hotel. He waited in the lobby to whoever was supposed to meet him. He doesn't recall if the person who approached, he doesn't recall who the person who is initially approached. He believed it was about 3 or 4 individuals, and then he followed them into a conference room. He said there were 3 black males and can't recall if the white male was Palladino. He says one person was escorted by 2 black males. He set up for, so I'm guessing he's saying 3 black males. One was the person he was testing, and the other 2 was escorting that 3rd black male. So he said he just set up for his interview, but he said it wasn't much of an interview because the person that he was supposed to be examining wouldn't tell him anything. He asked him to sign a waiver or consent form. He said that's something that he do before every exam. He said he filled it out first. They actually showed us. It was Exhibit 321. It was a form. It's basically a permission to. Sorry, I'm still not sure. Sorry, Siri tripping. It was a permission to release form. What was that? He asked him to sign it. He filled it out. The guy wouldn't sign it. So because he wouldn't sign it, I think I'm jumping ahead. He filled out the form for the individual he was testing him. Okay, so then the individual wouldn't give his name. They were asked to describe him, the individual he's testing. He said it was a black male. What did you call him? He said, well, he told me just to call him Showtime. And that was the name on the actual form. He asked they were asked about the tape. They said the tape was labeled the performance tape. Said that they told him to call. That's what he said, that they told him to call the tape, the performance tape. That's also what was written on the form that he had to fill out. What was the subject matter? The performance tape. He said he did ask what the tape was about. They wouldn't tell him, and they said to just refer to it as the performance tape. Down on the bottom of the form, it shows that he said that he refused to sign. So the examiner had typed refused to sign. The polygraph, the person that was on the exam, he signed, and the witness signed, which is Jack Palladino, but I can't read the signature, so we assuming that that's who it was. He also said he can't read it, and he's assuming that's who that was. So he notated that at 6:25, the client refused to sign at this time. On the back, he wrote, because he was afraid that because he wouldn't sign, the guy would try to come back with some type of legal action or something like that. So he made him put on the back, I will not sue the company that gives me this test. And then there was some kind of signature, but you couldn't actually read the signature. He says he doesn't remember if he even conducted the test, because he says in his mind, if the guy refused to answer the questions and refused to sign that form, he said at that point in time he really wouldn't have a reason to give him the test. So he doesn't remember asking him any questions. He thinks he pretty much just packed up the machine and left. At that point there was an objection, and there was an objection, and I don't know whose side it was. I mean, it was from the defense, but I don't know which attorney. And they said that the witness was speculating, and then the witness went and said, "Yeah, the defense is correct, Your Honor. I am kind of speculating because I don't remember anything that happened." So that was kind of a funny moment. And then he said he could have been paid about $350 to maybe $500. And he said after that, he's never seen any one of these people again. So there was nothing further for that. And then McDavid's attorneys came and cross-examined. He said on August the 23rd, 2001, a person that called said his name was Jack Palladino, and at that time he was still an active police officer. So he said yes, because this particular person that's testifying, he's an active police officer, detective. So do you remember being shown pictures and you identified Jack Palladino? He says, well, actually, what I think I said was there was only one white guy in the pictures that they showed me, and so I told him, well, that has to be Jack, because was it Jack? Yeah, Jack, because it's the only white guy in the picture. That's how he pretty much pointed him out. So at this time, they're asking. So there was 2 off-duty police officers, and you're a detective that was there, right? Correct. Did you guys watch the video? No. There was no video there, correct? He said no. There was no video. Jack told you there was an issue. Jack told you was what the issue was about. He said yes. Was there any other tapes made? Hold on. Oh, he said that basically Jack told him that they wanted to do the test to determine if there were any other tests made, any other tapes made. And he said yes. And he would have been the only one to tell you that, correct. And Jack would have also been the only one given the results had Showtime had actually taken the test. And he said correct. There was nothing further. Then there was a cross-examination by Milton Brown's attorney. He said, so you met with the detectives on the same day, July 23rd, 2001, and you couldn't identify anyone by names in the picture shown, correct? And you didn't see Milton Brown? No. You don't even know who Milton Brown is? No, I don't. Then there was a cross-examination by Ashley, which is the other attorney on Bonjean's team. When you first spoke, you said you didn't want to be interviewed, nor did you even remember anything, meaning when you first spoke to the government when they interviewed you. He says correct. First you said you didn't remember if you even saw a white or black guy. He said, no, I don't think I said that. I can't recall if he was black. And at that point, he said, like, I couldn't recall if he was Afro-American or black. And then he said, which one should I call him? And so Ashley told him, well, I can't answer that question for you. He was meaning, like, should he call us African-Americans or should he call us black or Afro-American? And he said, oh, so the government, he said, I can recall that he was black. I didn't tell him I didn't remember if he was actually black or white. So then Ashley says, okay, so the government got that wrong. And he says, well, I wouldn't exactly say they got it wrong. Maybe they just misunderstood what I said. He said, they asked him again, so you were hired by Jack? Yes. You're not familiar with Kelly? He said, no, I'm not, or his music. You never watched the tape? No. And you didn't know who was on the tape? No. This is when Ashley says to them, you are a mandated reporter? Yes. What's a mandated reporter? I have to report all child abuse. I have to report all child abuse, child pornography, and etc. He said he had no reason to believe that any child pornography was actually on that tape. He said, and the police use your services all the time. He says yes. So at that time, there was no further questions. And then they called in their next witness. The government. So the government is still up, you guys. They still calling their witnesses. I can tell you right now, from what they said today, when we go back tomorrow. So Charles Freeman right now is coming to the stand. That's Chuck. He's going to be cross-examined, and then we will probably have Keith, and then Lisa, and then Thursday and Friday will be the other four accusers. Just so you know. So they did give us a breakdown today a little bit, so it could be a little bit clearer. So Charles Freeman is the next witness. He lives in Kansas City, Missouri. They asked him what type of business or what employment, about his employment. He said he owned liquor stores, music company. He says he's worked for companies like So Def. He does merchandising. He's done merchandising for Gerald Levert, R. Kelly, Chris Brown. He just dropped a lot of names. Merchandising is pretty much when you make T-shirts, hats, any type of pictures and stuff that artists want to sell at their concerts when they're on tour. So he's one of the people that provide those services. He says how he met Rob was back in the day. He had a business with one of his friends. I did not write down the name of his business because I didn't care. But he said that what they started out doing was taking pictures and things like that at nightclubs. And eventually his company, they did some work on a tour that Gerald Levert was on, and he said Rob ended up also being on that tour. So he said one day while they was on the basketball court, Rob ended up coming out to play basketball, and he said he played on Gerald Levert's team, and that's how he pretty much got to meet Rob, and that was a 5 to 6 city tour. So I'm gonna tell you guys something. That particular tour was discussed in the New York trial. If you guys remember Angela, she talked about that tour because she said that was the tour that she was on, and it was the tour that Aaliyah couldn't perform on because she was underage, and it was like a Budweiser thing or something. And this is the particular tour she said that everything happened that she seen on that tour bus. So I'm saying that to say, you see how all these people are all connected and they all have bumped heads in some type of way.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So when as soon as I heard that, I knew exactly what she was talking about because Angela talked about Rob playing basketball with Gerald Levert on the stand too. Okay, so he said they got closer. He said they got closer because he had on a jacket that he had somebody in Chicago named Barbara Bates made for him, and it's supposed to be like a custom made jacket. And he said he had on that jacket, and Rob must have had the same jacket. So when Rob's brother seen him wearing it, he accused him of stealing it from Rob. And he said, next thing you know, Rob came up to him and asked the man, "Did you steal my jacket?" And he told him, "No, I had got this from Barbara Bates, and I paid $3,500 for this jacket." And then he said he took it off, and when Rob seen that the size was smaller, because he said at that time Rob was a little bit bigger than him, he knew that wasn't his jacket. He said, and that's when they instantly became friends. And that was around 93 and 94. So, and at that time, Rob was still with Public Announcements. See, again, this is around that time. This is around that time. This is all around the time Rob. You remember, even Rob discussed this tour because he said when he was going out, they was messing with his lighting. Gerald Levert they was playing with his lightings, and then he told that story about how he would come out, and before he started bumping grind, he'd tell a story about a girl he had a dream of. And who was he saying that he had? Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige.
And that's what so and after that his concerts took off, and then he ended up ending the concerts instead of being the opener front. Gerald Levert ended up opening for him, and he was closing. That's all the same tour. So And again, that's the one that Angela was referencing to. So all these people knew each other in some type of form or way. He said he ended up calling Barry Hankerson to ask if he could do a merchandising for a tour that Rob was going on. And Barry told him, you would have to talk to Rob about that. He said he ended up coming to Chicago. He met Rob at Tracks. He said that was the 12 play tour, and he went on that with him. He said, and then he asked Rob if he could do another tour, and he said that one would have been the Mr. Biggs tour. At that time, Rob had said no. So then he ended up having some artists that was performing where Rob was performing, and his group is the group Talent. So Rob ended up signing that group to Rockland Records. Now, mind you, like, listen, I'm gonna tell you, when this guy first came out, I gotta understand, this dude was such, I'm not gonna say that, but Rob was laughing during his testimony. So I guess whatever he was saying, he felt like this dude is just BS. So he did laugh a little bit. He was being, he was showing again reactions to stuff, something that he normally don't do. So Rob ended up signing these guys to Rockland Records. The group had started calling him, and they were complaining that they weren't getting paid, or they wasn't having enough food, or they wasn't eating. So he's told them, okay, I'm going to talk to Rob. And then when he did talk to Rob, Rob just told him, man, it's cool. They'll be all right. And so he says he knows Daryl McDavid, and he knows Milton Brown. He said to him, Milton Brown was kind of like Rob's assistant. He was the person that would hold the fort down while Rob was away for the most part. They asked, when did you meet again? He said on a tour, but he couldn't remember which one. He said, but it was the 90s. Bonjean objected, and she said, well, the 90s is an entire decade. I'm going to need you to get a little bit closer in, which will narrow it down a little bit more for us. So he said, well, it had to be either the 12 play or the Mr. Biggs tour, so it would have been between 93 and 96. Okay, and so then they went on to say, let's talk about the agreements that you remember. This is still the government questioning this witness. The government said, let's talk about the agreements that you made with the government. You were given immunity. He said, then that means to tell the truth about what you're saying. And this is what he's saying. I was given immunity, and it means to tell the truth about what I seen and lived, and I won't discourage others to tell the truth. And if I do, that means that I could be prosecuted. I said, okay, in 2001, you received a call from Kelly. He said it was around January or February. He says it was about, he told him he needed help recovering a stolen tape. He said the first call came from Robert. Was anyone else on that call? There was an objection. The judge overruled it. And they asked again, anyone else on the call? No. He said he wanted me to recover some tapes, and that Daryl McDavid and an investigator would be giving me a call. He said, well, did they call? Yes, they did. They called a couple of days later. During that call, Daryl McDavid and Jack Palladino was speaking to him and telling him that they needed him to recover some tapes that had info that had been stolen from their clients. Jack said he would offer him a reward. He didn't know who Jack was. Daryl told him that it was a performance tape and that they needed recovered. If he got it, that they would take care of him. He says Jack said that they would come to meet me. They didn't discuss what was on the tape during that call. The meeting happened about a week later in a hotel in Kansas City. Daryl McDavid and Jack was at that meeting. He don't remember the name of the hotel, but he do remembers the meeting took place during the day. They called and told him to save the location. They called and gave him the location and the room number. He went to the hotel with about 2 other people. They asked, well, why did you take 2 other people with you? He said, well, because, just for my protection, um, he said when he called, the reason is because when they call and he asked how much would, they call him and ask him, how much would you be charging to get the tape back? At that time, there was a break, a 15-minute break. And then when they came back in, they said, okay, when we left off, we were talking about the conversation that happened prior to the meeting. Yes. You said that they asked you how much were you going to charge. Correct. Who asked you? Jack and Durham McDavid. And I told them $1 million. Which person actually asked you this? Durham McDavid. You mentioned in the telephone conversation, there was a telephone conversation that you brought two guys with you because you felt you needed protection. Why was that? He said at that time he had did an internet search of Jack Palladino and he figured that he would probably need it. He said that he took two of his friends with him, Hakeem and Maurice. His friends, nobody associated with Rob. He said when they arrived, when they got there, it was those two, himself, Jack and Durham McDavid were all in the room. For a brief minute, they stopped to describe the room. How was it set up? He said Jack was sitting on a table with chairs, and Durham McDavid was on the couch. He said, so fellas, how we gonna get this done? This is what the witness is stating. How we gonna get this done? This is Charles, aka Chuck. Jack said, first of all, we're not paying no $1 million. And then Durham McDavid said, we need you to get these tapes. And he said, at that point, we began to argue about the money. And he told them, well, if I'm not getting $1 million, then I'm not doing it. He said they all got into a shouting match or whatever. And he said, and then they left the meeting. He said later he got a call from Jack. He apologized and said, man, you know what? We got off to a bad start. We just need to calm down. I apologize, but we need to get these tapes. We need to get these tapes back from my client. He said he asked if anyone knew he asked if he knew anyone in the ATL because he said he knew these people. That's where they lived. He said yes. He said, well, we're going to come down and make you an offer to recover these tapes. Then he said that they will need to do, and then Chuck said, well, we're going to have to do a contract. He said when he met with Jack and Durham McDavid again at the hotel, it was around 3 or 4 days after the second call. The same hotel, same people was with him. The same people came with them. He had a contract to sign. He said this time it was a regular sized hotel room. They were sitting on the couch when he walked in. Convo was he will recover the tape and he will pay $1 million. Jack said, we not signing that. We will send you a contract on how you will be paid. Jack told him the tapes were in ATL and that's where he would be going to retrieve them. He said that they was going to be given to a man and a woman. They was given to a man and a woman in Georgia. He didn't say who gave it to the man and the woman, but he needed to receive the info on how to get it there. He received the info on he didn't receive the info on how it got there from Jack. He got the info on the next call. From his understanding, who gave the tape to the person in Georgia, it was Lisa Van Allen. And they asked, who is Lisa Van Allen? He said, next girlfriend to R. Kelly. At that time, there was another objection. He said he got he got the info from Jack and Durham McDavid that Lisa had the tapes and they wanted him to go get them. That particular, okay, so the reason why I keep saying it, like, I'm going to say it again, he got the info during that phone call, is because instead of him saying directly, Daryl McDavid told me to do this. Jack told me to do this. He would say they, them. So they had to keep asking him, you have to be direct and tell us specifically who is the person that said what. Break down each person. So if it sounds like I'm repeating certain things, this is why, because she had to kind of go back and forth with this witness, because that was something he couldn't remember to actually name the person that he was speaking about. And being that it's 3 defendants, you have to name each person because you don't want someone else to be mistaken for they. Okay, so back to this. He says he got the info. So he says around 96, 97, 98, he knew Lisa because she used to be in Chicago. She was one of the girls in the hotel room with the group Talent. And remember, I said Talent was one of his groups that Rob ended up signing on his Rockland label. Jack told him that they was coming down with the contract for him to sign. He asked if the contract say that I'm getting $1 million. And he said, wait till we get there. That was the 3rd meeting at the same hotel, same people. He says, when we got to the room, he was presented a contract that said that he would get $100,000 to recover the tape and $40,000 for his expenses. He said he didn't sign it, but eventually he did. They asked why. He said because Daryl McDavid had a separate conversation with him off to the side saying, man, we will pay you the $1 million, but we just need to make sure that the tape you recover is going to be the actual tape and that it's the original and that there's no more copies or anything like that made before we actually give you $1 million. He said, so once him and McDavid talked about it, that's when he agreed to sign the contract. So Exhibit 320 shows the signatures on the document. It's the contract he signed from Jack Palladino, and it's dated. Jack Palladino dated it August the 21st, 2001. When the witness, Chuck, actually signed it, he signed it August 21st, 2000. They asked him, why did you mess up the year? What happened with the year? He said, oh, I think that was just a mistake. The contract is titled Agreement for a Reward and Expenses between Charles and Jack to recover and return of the stolen performance tape. He was told that the tape was stolen from Rob by Lisa Van Allen and that nothing on that tape was to be discussed. He had until August the 23rd, 2001, which was 2 days later, to turn over all materials to Jack Palladino that he recovered. And he would be required to take a polygraph or a PSE exam concerning his truthfulness about recovering the stolen tapes. And basically they wanted to make sure that he didn't take any, they wanted to make sure that he didn't make any copies or anything as well.
Which he did.
So he also agreed to hold confidential and to not reveal to any third parties any information that pertained to this matter. Next, they went to the ATL to the address to recover the stolen tape. It was a couple of days had passed since the signing. He said he knew it was in the same, because it was in the same week, and I'm guessing because of the terms of the contract, it was the 2 days. So he said he drove down. He said he took the same 2 people with him, which was his friends Hakeem and Reese. He took them because he didn't trust the situation that he was on with them, meaning he didn't trust Daryl McDavid and Jack Palladino. And he said that was pretty much because of the way they kept playing with his money and they wasn't keeping their word. He said he had never been to the address before. It was a house. He said they drove around the house several times before they actually parked the car and then they got out. He went and knocked on the door while the other 2 guys stayed in the driveway. He said there wasn't anyone there in particular that he was supposed to meet. He was just supposed to be the muscle kind of guy and muscle his way into the house to get the tape. He said a girl, and then switched up to a young woman, came to the door, and he said, I came to get the motherfucking tape. And he said, I came to get the motherfucking tape that y'all stole from Rob. And she put her hands up and she pointed at the TV. He said, while he was still standing at the door. He said the TV, which was towards the right in the living room. Once he went over to the TV, there were two tapes. And one was sitting kind of like inside as though they were watching it. They ejected it, but they just didn't pull it all the way out. So he said it was sitting inside the VCR. He said he pushed it in and he said, well, I guess that was the tape because they was looking for it because it had R. Kelly and a girl on there. He said he then ejected the tape and he left, but he ended up leaving with 3 tapes, even though he had only seen 2, he said. He said when he got in the car, he went to the hotel to drop his friends off, and then he went to Walmart. He bought a VCR recorder and some blank tapes. He then went to his friend's house, which his name was Robert Howard. He plugged up the recorder. He said he looked at all the tapes. One only contained something with Disney. The other was a family tape of people that he didn't know. And the third must have been what they wanted. And they asked who. He said, well, Daryl McDavid, Rob, and Jack. Who was there with you? He said no one. The family had gone to like a picnic at a park. So he said he set up the video recorder, put the tape in, and he said he watched. He said he observed Rob having sex with a young lady, urinating on her, and then rubbing lotion on her. How old do you think she looked? He said young. And then he said he observed Rob laying on the floor performing oral sex. The room had a checkered floor with the TV, and he seen the young lady. Rob urinated on the girl as the tape went on. He said then the scene switched into him being inside of a bedroom where Rob was having sex and he was putting lotion on the girl's face. He described the two different sex scenes, but he said it was the same girl in both scenes and there was no audio. He said Rob was giving her orders on what to do. The girl had said during in the tape, Daddy, my hair is messing up and I gotta go to school tomorrow. And then there was just more sex of them on there. They were referring to their body part. They were referring to her body parts as a 14-year-old girl's vagina. He said he made about 3 or 4 copies of the tapes. And he said the reason he did that is because he didn't trust them to pay him his money. So in 2019, did you still have these copies? Yes, I did. Did you turn them over to, he said he turned them over to his attorney because his attorney had reached out to him saying, man, the police is coming to get you because they know that you're holding sex tapes for Rob. His attorney came to Chicago to actually get him immunity, and they ended up giving those 2 tapes. They ended up giving 2 copies of the 3 to 4 that he made to the state's attorney. He said he was able to view the tapes again for preparation of his testimony. That's going to be Exhibit 001. The tape that 001 is the tape that he gave to his attorney that his attorney gave to the police. Exhibit 002 is also a tape that he gave to the police, and this is the tape. He said if this is the tape of Rob having sex with the underage girl.
I'm sorry. His attorney was Avenatti, right?
Oh yeah, let me state that. They left that out to you guys. His attorney was Avenatti. Yes. Yes, that's big. And those and they gave 2 of the 4 tapes he claimed to have made to the law enforcement. Now let me see. He said these exhibits, he know that he had watched them in preparation for his testimony because he wrote his initials on it. And those tapes were the exact tapes that he had seen back in 2001 when he went to retrieve the tapes. Okay, so in 2001, he said he was at a friend's house making copies. Once he finished making the copies, so they went back. Once he finished making the copies, he went back to the hotel. He said by the time he got back to the hotel, the two guys that he was with had actually left for a party, so he went and joined them at the party. Let me see. He said the next day he went home and he ended up putting the tapes up in his closet at his home. I remember on the news they said that the tapes were found in the closet of a man that lived in Philly. Am I wrong, Tanya? Did you hear that?
You talking about the one that?
Remember when they first said that they discovered these tapes and they had this older guy on the news?
He was with Alred saying that
yeah, he was exactly. Well, this is a total different story. So now it was George Freeman, and this guy is very dark skinned, kind of stalky, like look nothing like the person that was sitting at that table with Alred. What's her name? Alred. And totally different, but it was the same story. He had the tapes in his closet. So he said he kept them there in his home. Did you tell the police about the tapes? And he said no. And they asked him why. And he said because the police wasn't going to pay me $1 million for them. He said he then called Daryl McDavid and Jack. They had to ask him again, who did you speak to directly? And he says Daryl McDavid. The next day, after getting the tape, he said he then met up with Daryl McDavid at the Intercontinental Hotel on the plaza. He got the instructions from Daryl McDavid and Jack. He left 3 tapes and only took 1 with him. So he left 3 tapes that he made at home and only took 1 to the hotel where he was meeting them with him. He said this time he took his friend Jamar. He was for muscles. When he met Daryl in the lobby, they took him to a conference room. They had a TV and a VCR in there. Daryl McDavid and Jack were in the room as well. He said they sat in the middle of the table and told them to sit on the opposite side of the table. Jack asked him if he had recovered it. He said, well, we're going to need to see it before we do anything. He said, but first we need to see some IDs. So he said, okay, we showed them our IDs. And he said, and then we told them, well, we're going to need to see your IDs. So they showed their IDs. He said, okay, well, let us see what you recover, and we will go from there. You can't get paid until we see what you recover. He said he handed the tape to Daryl McDavid. Jack asked him to step out of the room while they reviewed the tape. He said they paced in the hallway. He said at first he couldn't hear anything until he got a little bit closer. And the reason he got closer is because he didn't want them running out another door or something with the tape. And he said he could hear them in there listening to it. They were in the room for about 5 to 10 minutes. He said when Jack came and got them, and then he said, okay, well, we recovered the tape, but we recovered the tape, so we need to get paid. He said they said that we wasn't getting any money until our client says that this is the tape, and he says that he says he lost. So then he told Daryl that wasn't the deal, and there was a shouting match all over again with the both of them. He said when he ended it, he snatched the tape and began to walk out. Jack told him to calm down. You're going to get your money. It's okay. After he knows that that's the tape and no copies were made. So he said Jack was always the one that calmed the situations down. And when they got into these shouting matches, he said because Daryl McDavid was always the one that was talking that little rah-rah stuff and this and that. So you could tell he really had some beef with Daryl McDavid in court. Jack assured him that he would get everything he promised. Daryl McDavid, he said, they asked where Daryl McDavid was. He said, well, he was just standing in the hallway with his face frowned up. He said that he gave them the tape back, and at that time, he didn't receive any money. He told them they better keep their word, and they left. After that meeting, he spoke to Jack about 2 days later because he hadn't heard from them. Jack said that they was coming there to bring him his money. They discussed the payment arrangement. They came. When they got there, they told him. Well, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna just read this," and then they actually went back because I don't want to confuse you guys. He said when they got there, they told him that it wasn't the original tape, and he said that he told them, well, that's what the people in Georgia had. There was an objection. When they went back, they said before they had called him, before they actually did this meeting, they had called him and had told him that's not the original tape. He said Durham McDavid said that. He said I talked to my client and he said that's not the original. And my guess is this. I'm not gonna guess. I'm just gonna continue on. Okay, so then they came back to Kansas and they told him that they would need to have him take a polygraph test. He said all this was within a week because he was calling almost every day about his money. He didn't bring anyone or anything. He said it was Jack, Durham David, and the guy that was there to take the polygraph test to meet him. He said he entered the room. They told him that they would ask him some questions, and they put some things on his fingers. He said he guessed he passed, and then Durham McDavid told the guy walked out, talked to Durham McDavid. He overheard Durham McDavid say, well, we got some more questions we need to ask him. And then they did, and then afterwards they told him, he said, well, I guess I passed. The questions were about, did you make any copies? Did you show these tapes to anyone? Does anyone else have any copies? Things like that. He said, Durham McDavid said, it's going to take like 1 or 2 days in order for us to get some cash. We can't just take all of this out at once like this. It's a process. Then he said Jack called and said, well, we'll be there with some cash. Said, bring that other tape because we know that you made more. And he said, I want to just, he basically said, Jack said, we'll be there to bring you some cash. Bring that other tape because we know you made more. Come on, man. Let's just get this over with and put this behind us. He said he did bring it with him. They were at the Hyatt Hotel. He took Jamar with him again. He said this time they went to a suite where Durham McDavid, Jack, and another black guy was there. The government asked him to describe the suite. He said the black guy ended up putting his gun on the bed when they came in. He figured that was kind of like to a scare tactic. He said we came in and we said we came to get the money. No more talking. They showed him 2 brown bags and they said, well, we're doing it how Durham McDavid told you it would be paid. Said that they will give it to him in payments as Rob's trial goes on. They said that they would give him $200,000 and told him they was going to give him all his money once to make sure no other tape got out. And I'm sorry, they said that they would give him all of his money once the trial had finished. So at that point, he took the other tape out. So how he described it is, this is exactly what he said. He said, I had the tape tucked in my back underneath my shirt by my butt. He said he said the tape was stuck between my back and my butt, and I took it from out of there and I gave him he said he handed the tape over to Jack. He said then we left the room with 1 bag of money, and he said once we got on the elevator, we counted the money, and it was only $75,000 cash in there. So he believed that he was still owed a lot of money from that agreement. After that meeting, it was another meeting that took place in 2001, early 2002, maybe mid 2002. What did he get? He didn't get any money, so that at that time he filed a lawsuit. Mid 2002, he filed a lawsuit. He was suing R. Kelly. He said, I can't remember. I might have been suing Durham McDavid too. He said they sent immediately. He said immediately he had got a phone call from Jack and Durham McDavid. Durham McDavid was telling him, I'm sorry for the miscommunication, but we don't trust you like the same way you don't trust us. So at that time, he received another $100,000. They told him
Damn.
you will receive the money. You will receive $100,000 every odd year. So 2005, 2007, 2009, etc. Until the trial was over. Once the trial was over, whatever the remaining balance was, he was supposed to get that in one complete lump sum. He said he didn't continue to receive any payments. In 2003, he spoke to Daryl McDavid about giving him money over the phone. He said he had called Daryl McDavid, told him, "Yo, man, you missed the payment." Daryl McDavid said it takes days to get money and he would pay him. He said it was a few months later he met with Daryl McDavid in Chicago outside of a hotel by himself, and he gave him a bag of money. He said he left and went to Kansas. He said in that bag, he had another $100,000 cash. He said at that time, he was then contacted to recover another tape. This was about the beginning of 2004. This tape was a tape of Rob, Lisa, and the same girl that was involved in the other sex tapes. He did identify this girl as a 14-year-old girl. He said there was a phone call with Daryl McDavid, told him that they had found out that there's another tape missing. He told them, well, I'm gonna need another $1 million. So he said he went to Chicago to meet up with Milton Brown, Daryl McDavid, and Rob at Rob's home in Olympia Fields. He followed Daryl McDavid from downtown and then followed him. He went and met Daryl McDavid downtown, and then he followed him back to Rob's house. He says no one was with him when he arrived. And then that's when the government was like, hold on, back up. Because they basically were saying that's not what happened at that particular time. And then he said, oh, okay, right. Actually, that time we went to a studio. We didn't go to Rob's house. And then there was an objection. Most of these objections came from both Bonjean's side and Daryl McDavid's side. He said, and this convo actually happened around the end of 2003, beginning of 2004. So they said, okay, well, how many conversations did you actually have? This is still the government, you guys. He said several. He said the very first one happened in Chicago studio with Daryl McDavid. This is the convo that they had about Lisa Van Allen's tape. And when he met with Milton Brown, Daryl, and Rob. The convo went as, there's another tape out there that we discovered is still missing. He told him what was on it. Daryl McDavid says it's another performance tape, sex tape. He said, with those same individuals, we need you to recover it because someone from Kansas might know these people. Rob had said, man, I need you to get these tapes. Brown said nothing. He began describing the studio. After that convo, he told them, I can get it, but it's going to cost another $1 million. They said, this is what we're looking for. And he said, okay. The agreement was he would try to recover the tape and they would have to pay. The Olympia Fields meeting took place a few weeks later. He was there with Daryl McDavid, Brown. He said at first Rob wasn't there, but he showed up later. At that time, we took a break. So I'm going to take a break. Let me see. Any questions? Yeah, he tried to file a lawsuit. He tried to file a lawsuit on what he says is a child pornography tape. How was that gonna work?
How are you extorting somebody and filing a lawsuit?
You filing, girl. Okay. Break is over. McDavid's attorneys raised this was a good part. So at that point, the jury still hadn't came back, but once everybody, all attorneys and stuff started coming in, McDavid's attorneys, man, let me tell you, they was pissed. They got up there and said, Your Honor, we want to charge the government and the witness on the stand They raised the issue. They said that the government is in violation of pursuant to some numbers. I didn't write that down. They said that the government is knowingly allowing this witness to sit on the stand and give false information. He has been given false information from the beginning of his testimony, and that in his testimony is strictly going against the testimony that he had gave to the grand jury in Cook County. And they said some more stuff, but they was basically just saying that the government is allowing this man to sit on this stand and lie. And they said all the counsels, all the defense counsels at this table will all agree, and we all want to they want to coincide on that motion. And then the government responded and said, well, they're not aware that it's false testimony. They said that the defense will have a chance to cross-examine him, and he said, but the witness isn't. We don't know that he's just sitting here telling lies. At this whole time, as they going back and forth, everyone's sitting down. So McDavid is standing up, and he's standing at that judge like, look, you're going to have to fix this. You got to do something. That man ain't no joke. He's standing there in the middle of the courtroom like, well, what we going to do? And next thing you know, when Banjin get involved, of course, she go crazy. So she took off in the courtroom, and the judge pretty much told them to go ahead and put all of that in the motion, and I guess they're going to review that. I don't know what's going to happen with that witness, but I'm pretty sure his immunity deal is probably up. And then after the jury came back in, and they asked him about how long was your meeting after the studio meeting to the Olympia Fields meeting. He said it was about a couple of weeks in between. There was a phone call from Daryl McDavid saying he needed him to come back to Chicago. They asked him at this point, is this when you met him at the restaurant? And he said, no. I met Daryl McDavid at the hotel, and he had asked me to follow him to the Olympia Fields house. He said he was by himself. So when he got there, he said he was let in. Daryl McDavid, he said when he got there, he was let in. Daryl McDavid and security let him in the gate. There was a person in the room he said there was a room that was down the steps in the house. Daryl McDavid, and it was him, Daryl McDavid, and Milton Brown. He said Daryl was saying that this is the tape that we looking for, with Lisa and a young girl on it. The room was like, he said the room that he was in, that they were talking in, was kind of like a pre-studio room. He said because it wasn't a big studio, but it was just like something where you could just do some basic recording in. He said after walking into the room, Daryl McDavid said, if you can recover this, we need you to recover this because we need someone that's in Kansas City. Someone in Kansas City has it. He said Daryl McDavid showed him a piece of the tape and said that this is what we're looking for. He said it was, he actually don't know if it was a tape because it's not like he put it into a VCR or anything. He basically just turned on the TV and it started playing. He says there was a young girl laying on a bed. There was another girl. So the young girl, he says, is the original girl from the other videos. She was laying on the bed while the other girl, which is Lisa Van Allen, was performing oral sex on her. But his words were she was eating her out. And he said there was a guy behind her, and that was Rob. He says the young girl was the 14-year-old girl. He said there was no sound. And Daryl McDavid was standing behind him watching. They watched probably about 10 to 15 seconds of the video. Daryl McDavid said one of the group members had the tape. He asked how much would you give me to get it back? He said Daryl said nothing. I'm sorry. He said Brown at this point had said absolutely nothing. He was just standing there in the room. He said he really just basically escorted me in. They said, "Had you seen that video before?" He said, "No." He said, then they went back to the hotel in Chicago. A phone call was made. He made a phone call to the people that was in his group talent. He called the person that's supposed to have the video. He said at that time he figured it was either Daryl McDavid or it was either Ernest Dixon or Keith Morrell. I don't know how they would know the age. He said it was either Ernest Dixon or Keith Morrell that had the tape. He told them, he asked them, "Man, y'all got that tape. Y'all should have told me because they willing to pay me for this tape." And he said, they asked, "Well, who did you actually speak to when you said that?" He said, "Well, I called Ernest." And he said, Ernest said, "Man, that ain't me, that's Keith." He said, then he called Keith. And Keith said, "Yeah, Lisa sent me the tape with them, and Lisa wanted me to get rid of it because she was on it, but she was having sex with a young girl, and she ain't wanted to get out." So he said, when we got back to Kansas, he said he had another conversation, and he had met with Keith at his apartment complex, which was the next day. He had asked him, "Man, you got the tape?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, let me see it." He said Keith had told him, "Man, Daryl McDavid been calling me," and at that time he said Keith probably had already been paid about $100,000 for that tape. He asked to see it again. He said he seen it at his house. He said Keith didn't let him get it because Keith said, "Well, I don't want you to get this tape because if I don't got it and I made a deal, then he might kill me." He said he didn't realize that Daryl McDavid had already reached out to Keith about it. He showed him another like 1 or 2 minutes of that tape. He said the next day Keith took him downtown to make copies so he could give to Daryl McDavid to try and get some more money from him. He said, so we went there, played it on the TV, and he actually used his cell phone to record it as they were playing it on the TV. He said he ended up just giving the tape back to Keith because he had already made a deal, and he said, that was my little guy or whatever, so I wanted to look out for him, so I let him keep the tape. He said the cell phone that he recorded the video on, he eventually lost. But like I said, he said because Keith was his friend, that was his guy, he was trying to get the deal along, so he just gone ahead and let Keith get that money. So over the next few years, between 2004 and 2007, they asked, "Did you receive any payment?" He said, "Yes, I did, 2005 from Daryl McDavid." He said because that was the next odd year, so that he was supposed to be paid. He said he was supposed to receive the full payment right before the 2008 trial, but they ended up missing the 2007 payment. He started making calls to Daryl McDavid. He said Daryl McDavid kept lying and giving me excuses on why he couldn't pay me. So in 2007, he met up with Rob after one of his concerts. So I'm going to just say, like, at this point, he was actually all Rob tours. He was actually following Rob on his tours. And he said, I don't remember the exact date. He said, but Rob assured me that Daryl McDavid is going to take care of me. He said the conversation took place backstage, but he couldn't remember what arena or what city because he was simply following Rob on all his tours trying to get his money. And he said Rob would always say, "Man, just talk to Daryl McDavid." And he said he still wouldn't get his money. So I don't know what this is supposed to be. Headphones to Daryl McDavid following the tours. Okay, so the next meeting was in Olympia Fields, and it was at the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. He said he can't recall exactly. He said, but it was right before the trial. He remembered because Daryl McDavid was being all cocky with him and telling him he had to wait. He told Daryl McDavid, "I'm coming back to Chicago," because he was being cocky. So he let him know, "I'm coming back to Chicago." So he said he met with him at a place that they have concerts at. Couldn't remember the name of it. Durham McDavid said Rob wanted to see him. He said, I either got in the car with Durham McDavid or I follow him. He then said he had with him his lawyer, Reese. Now, his lawyer at that time was not Avenatti. So this was a different lawyer. His lawyer was named James someone. Because remember, this is back 2007, 2008. He said he had his friend Reese, another friend, and his lawyer. They went back to Rob's house. They parked the car. Durham McDavid and the two security guards told them they had to park on the outside of the car. They wasn't going to allow them in the gate. And they told the other guys, well, y'all got to stay out here because Rob only wants to meet with Chuck. The lawyer had said, well, I need to be there. And Durham McDavid told him, no, this ain't that kind of meeting. And so he told them, well, y'all call me every 15 minutes while he went into the house with Durham McDavid. He said Durham McDavid took him into a room similar to like an ice cream shop. He said Rob was in there alone. Durham left. Rob said, Chuck, man, we've been friends for a long time. We always been cool. Talk to Durrell about the tape and be honest. Have the authorities contacted you? He said he wanted to make sure I wasn't working with the police. He said, go back here and go talk to Durham McDavid. He asked Durrell, am I getting the rest? No, he asked Rob at that time, am I getting the rest of my money? And Rob says, has Durrell not been paying you? And he said, not what I'm owed. And he said he told him what he wasn't going to. He said, but man, look, I'm not going to tell on you. Chuck told this to Rob, man, look, I'm not going to tell on you. Durham McDavid tells him to come into a bathroom. He said, man, what I'm going in the bathroom for? He said, well, we're going to take our clothes off and get in the pool. And he said, man, I'm not getting naked in no pool with you. And he said, well, we got to make sure you're not wearing a wire. So he said, well, he pulled up his shirt. And he said, well, I took off my shirt, but I kept on my bottoms and stuff. And then he said he kind of like stuck his feet or something that was in the water. And he said Durham McDavid assured him that Rob was going to pay him. Just trust him on this. After they got out of the pool, well, he said that Durham McDavid got fully undressed except for his underwear, and he sat in the pool. After they got out of the pool, he left him, and he said he left, but him and Durrell still had a convo in the driveway. He said, Durrell told me I'm going to meet you tomorrow with some money to show good faith. He said, all right, call me. He said he called the next day and asked where he was at. I got some money for you. So then he said, I told him, he told me to stay where they was, and Durrell came to me. He said, whoever you got in the car, let them out at that store and follow me. So as they were leaving the parking lot, he pulled up so Durrell was in the passenger seat, and then Chuck was in the driver's seat of different cars. So they pulled up side by side. He rolled down his window, and Durrell just basically threw a brown paper bag into his car and then pulled off. He said when he looked at the bag, he opened it, and there was money inside the bag. He said it was a total of $100,000 in cash. He tucked the bag underneath his seat, and then he went back around and picked up his lawyer. Did you tell the lawyer that you got it? He said, nah, I tucked it up underneath my seat. I ain't even tell him. So in June 2008, June 2008, they said, what did you do to try and get the balance of your money owed? He said, I called Durham McDavid and Durham McDavid said, well, the trial is about to start. I need the rest of my money. He said, okay, I got to talk to Rob. He said, after arguing back and forth with Durham McDavid, he decided, okay, fuck it, I'm going to hold a press conference. He told the reporters that he had some crucial information about the case. And he had also told Keith Morrell about this. He said after he called the next day, after he set the press conference, he got a call the next day from Milton Brown. He asked where he was and where he was staying. He said, I told him I'm in Chicago. Brown said, well, I'm about to pull up on you. He said, for what? He said, because Rob want to meet you. He said, because Rob want to holler at you. So he pulled up, told him to get in. He got in the back seat. He said, Rob wants to talk to you. Rob was on the phone and said, man, I got you. You know I do. Right now I'm being watched. I can't make no moves. but I gave you my word. I know you're not gonna do this. I know you're not gonna do me like this. And then Brown had said, you know Rob got you. He been paying you for this long. Then Brown went and gave him $10K and said Daryl will be in touch to give you more. That time Daryl McDade gave him a call that next AM. He said, man, it takes time to get money. Just hold fast, stick around, give me a minute. And he said, I know what hotel you at. I'm gonna pull up to the hotel next to it where you can meet me. And he said, and give you some money. And he said he did. He called before that afternoon to make sure the press conference was over before he did though. Was canceled. He said he gave me either $150,000 at that time or $175,000, all cash. And he said because he had talked to Rob, he took his word that he was gonna pay. So that's why he pretty much canceled the press conference, and then he agreed that he'd get the balance after the trial. So in 2009, after the trial, he kept calling Daryl McDavid. Rob had changed his number. When he finally called the offices of where Daryl McDavid's supposed to have work, he got in touch with him, and Daryl told him, Rob said to tell you that the bank is closed. After that, that's when he filed another lawsuit. He said they settled for $125,000, and they sent that $125,000 directly to his lawyer. After that settlement, he said he didn't receive any more money. They said, well, you testified that you turned over tapes. Did you contact the police or anyone else about this? He said no. They said, why? He said, because I believe that they'll pay me. And he said, when I seen him in 2012, he seen him at another concert in 2012. And he said, Rob basically told me, man, I'm broke. He said, what? He said, but when I get back up on my feet and when I get back everything back going, I got you. He said after that, he just told him, you know what, man, forget it. It is what it is. I just want to go back to living my life. And then he started telling us, y'all don't understand. Since 2001 up until 2012, I spent my life chasing this man, following him on his tours and stuff to get my money, and I was just over it.
Girl.
And so he said, he told Rob, look, dude, as long as the police don't come around me or come to get me, we good. I ain't gonna say nothing. You ain't gotta worry about me. And then that's how the day ended, you guys. So when we come back, the government may still be questioning him. And then tomorrow it's gonna be a good day because the Dermot David attorneys is gonna get down on him. I already know that. So we'll do the cross examinations, and then we got Keith. And then we got Lisa Van Allen. And they said that they wanted to change a name or something for one of the accusers. So that person does not testify until Thursday or Friday. So that's why I said I think the other witnesses is Thursday and Friday. And probably the government will be resting their side by Friday or early Monday. And then the defense will start calling witnesses. So that was it for today.
Man, he was paid a whole lot of money.
Oh, he was. You know what? Normally I would have added all of that up. I didn't even take the time to add it up, y'all. I don't know. I'm just gonna say he was given over $500,000, and
still had a tape he been had since then.
So they didn't even get to. If y'all remember that he said that they came to him to ask him to retrieve another tape, and he asked for another $1 million. So they didn't even get to whether he even started looking for that tape, or if he had retrieved it. But I'm trying to remember. It's that one. It was one that wasn't found, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the one. The one with Lisa Van Allen and her was the one that was never found. I think
Is that tape number 4?
Yeah, that's the other tape. So I think Earl Brown had actually did an interview and said that that tape was gonna never be found. Oh yeah, they're gonna cross him or they're gonna charge him with perjury or something because the way that they came with what they said during break, I feel like they said that he lied to the grand jury. He told the grand jury one story and got on the stand and said something totally different, and it wasn't just one thing. It was they said throughout his entire testimony he was lying, and he wasn't even finished testifying. They gonna do him like they tried to do Lisa Van Allen in 2008. I predict that when they try to when she almost got
impeach his
locked up.
testimony.
Yeah, Nova said, but how can they say that that's them? That's just him talking. They really can't say. They don't have four, never did. And then he pretty much said, if you made 4 copies and you still saying that you even only gave Avenatti 2, where's the other 2 tapes? Tori, I didn't look at the jurors. I'm sorry. I don't be looking up because I be trying to make sure I get everything. And if I look up for a minute, I might miss something. So I wasn't really paying attention to the jurors. And plus, in this courtroom, you really don't want to spend too much time looking at them and stuff and you just don't want to do anything because so many people were getting yelled at and getting threatened to get put out the courtroom. It's not even worth it to me. I just take my notes. Trying to see if there's some questions. Some more questions. You see anything, Tanya?
No, I was looking. I didn't see anything. Oh, how was Rob looking today?
Huh?
Someone said, how was Rob looking today?
Oh, he was looking good. Today the first day that I noticed that he had that limp. Because I sat at the first row right directly behind him. So when he walked in, today's the first day that I noticed that about that limp that everybody's saying, talking about he hurt himself playing basketball. But other than that, he's looking good. Like I said, he laughed a couple of times like this don't make no sense. Why that dude was testifying. The government. How do you pay for it? She said, Shell said, who the hell gonna be owed that kind of money and just say forget about it? Well, I think he already got like what 600,000. 600,000 for a tape, and he said that Rob said it wasn't even an original tape.
I added up like 700 and some thousand he was paid.
That's how much. Wow. Cause he got 175,000, 75,000. That's 250 right there. 100, 350, no 100, 450. Yeah, he got more than what he deserved. Who's this crooked lawyer? So his attorney in 2019 was Avenatti.
But I want to know, how was the tape even brought back up? Do I remember? I'm asking this question. I probably already know it.
What you mean when you say brought back up?
Like,
no.
Yeah, like how did this case even come back up again? Was it because of the surviving R. Kelly, right?
Rob told everybody, and I admit, none of this shit came back up until he asked for his money.
Yeah, true.
That's it. It's all about money. We're going to keep you fighting for your life so you ain't got to worry about that money.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said, Nova said that Bonjean going to cross him tomorrow.
She was pissed
Somebody
today,
said,
huh?
yeah, she was mad. Oh yeah, she was mad today, but she had the other defense counsels on her side, so they all teamed up today. It was good. When I tell y'all, that lady, when she get upset, she be sitting back in her seat like this. She be so mad. Somebody said this is some Hollywood scripted bullshit. It's the reporters on Twitter saying the same thing. This is like out of a movie. All of this stuff.
She's very animated.
Yeah. Nova says, how can we know this is all true coming from criminals? That's what I'm saying, and they're saying that he's still lying on the stand. When I tell you that man would sit up there and he would look directly at Rob and Daryl McDavid, he was doing this and drinking his water and just smiling. The smirk he had on his face, it was just like, really?
He ain't gonna be smiling when they lock his ass up.
Did you say? He said, yeah, he did say the tape had no sound, and yet he still was able to tell us that she said something about messing up her hair. She had school tomorrow. He absolutely did say the tape had no audio.
So the tape that they're playing for the jury was not the original.
Yeah, because the one they played for the jury had audio because we were able to hear it. And somebody said, wait, where did it go? My hands, yeah. Dang, it was a question I wanted to answer, but it went away. All of them, they all have the same attorney. Avenatti was also Geronda's attorney. They all had the same attorney.
He was the Savage's attorney.
He was a Savage's attorney. This ain't right, Miss B. This is not the man that said he found the tape in the house. That's exactly what I'm saying. There was someone else that said that they found that tape in their closet. Now he testifying he had the tape in his closet the whole time. So even Avenatti put all of that together. And I guess when he did it, they used someone else because at that time Chuck probably wasn't trying to come out in the open and say I'm the one who had the tapes in my closet because he knew he would be incriminating himself. So they used another guy, which they probably paid, to go sit in front of the cameras and say, oh yeah, because we all knew that sounded like bullshit anyway. How you don't know what's in your closet and you've been living there for how many years? So we called bullshit when we heard that. So
yeah, that was a cover-up so that Chuck won't be put on Front Street.
Yeah, he didn't want to put himself out there, but he ain't have no choice. He can't come up. Somebody said he gotta come up for real. Did someone say something in the mic caught it? I'm not sure. I didn't. You mean something that they wasn't supposed to? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, somebody was like, yeah, and they were saying, let's talk about the, can't remember word for word, but someone Mike caught, yeah, I can't remember. Let me look and see what it said. Hold on.
Yeah, tell me, because I want to know that I must have missed that too. The one that was put out here in New York, it was bad. You cannot tell it was her. She was talking like they were trying to role play. Like she was an older person trying to sound like a young girl is what the audio sounded like to me. That's just my opinion, you guys. I think they said he is wearing a boot, but when he comes into the courtroom, he changes into his shoe. So I think he does have a boot.
Oh, it says the courtroom prosecution mentions, let's talk about any deals with the government. The courtroom's mic picks up someone whispering, yeah, let's.
Yeah. That was when the government was asking him, let's talk about your immunity deal. And 9 times out of 10, if someone said, yeah, let's, I'm guessing that was probably Jennifer, because she be in there snapping.
That's what I thought.
That's nobody but Jennifer. Oh, absolutely. I believe Avenatti is a big part of the extortion. And I feel like because he was who he was, is why they thought that, he would get away with it. But Nike shut that shit down. He said that the tapes that he recovered, that when he went to Georgia, he said that there was 2 tapes, but he left with 3 tapes. He said there was a tape of Disney, a family that he didn't know, and the 3rd tape was an actual sex tape. And he said he made 3 to 4 copies of that one particular sex tape. The jury says nothing. Let's answer how Rob was looking. Tape, it's not tape 4, because there was technically supposed to be what they said in the opening statement, that there's 2 tapes. One has 3 different scenes and one has 1. The tape from the 2008 trial, they don't have it all. The tape 2, scene 4 is what was missing, and that is supposed to be the scene with Drea and, was it Lisa Van Allen with Rob. That scene was missing, and that's how Rob knew it wasn't the original tape, because Drea wasn't on that tape. The original is not found. Yep. Okay, let me go to some new questions. Oh, I finished early today, huh, Tanya? Somebody said Drea got it. The tapes that he had, they haven't played in court, that had no sound. The tape that they played us had sound, and no, it did not sound like her. They said in the beginning of the opening statements that every single person that was going to be testifying for the government were criminals, liars, thieves, manipulators, and every single person got immunity. I hope. I hope she asked that question too. I don't even know if she knows about that particular interview. Who won? I don't. You know what? I don't know the rules. Oops, sorry. I don't know the rules to that, but I don't think Avenatti can be subpoenaed. Because of his status right now. Can he be subpoenaed, Tanya? Do you know anything about that? I don't want to speak on something I don't know.
Yes.
Didi, I don't think he's gonna need an appeal for this, because I honestly think that this is not slam dunk like they saying it is. I think they're gonna come back with some not guilty verdict. So in this particular case, I don't think he's gonna need an appeal. Okay, Tanya, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I think he can be subpoenaed, but I have a real bad feedback when I talk.
Um, but that is the last person who will be suspect, though. The only thing I hope and the only thing is that the jurors do not fall for this mess. I hope not. I hope and pray the same thing, Miss Ty. Not sure why. Oh, okay. I see. I see, Tanya. I didn't see that you wrote that. Isn't this double jeopardy? So basically, they took the state case, they reworded the charges, so they didn't charge him with the same exact things. They kind of reworded and they put it on the federal level. So yeah, it's double jeopardy, but because it's federal, it's not state. It's technically not double jeopardy. I can say this: most of the charge obstruction carries a lot of weight in this, and it carries a lot of time if he's found guilty of it. But that's the one thing I think they own witnesses kind of shut down when they asked Susan, was she being paid to lie or to keep a secret? And did Rob tell her to do this? And she testified under oath that no, he didn't. Where's the obstruction? And then Jane testified that even after he was arrested, he didn't contact her. For several, they released the text messages. She was telling him, like, why aren't you contacting me back? You need to contact me or I'm just do what I gotta do. Where's the obstruction? Do what you gotta do. He never told her, no, don't do that, do this. They said because she was lying. The same reason why in New York when Jane Doe number 5 got on the stand and was sitting there lying and it wasn't the truth. He cried then. I mean, I feel like he's a very emotional person, and if you did what you thought you were doing to help these people, I mean, at the end of the day, they got opportunities most people in their situations wouldn't have never had. They got to spend time with the king of R&B, and he took care of them. He probably loved them like they was his family. And to have them turn around and to lie, and we know that they lying. It's obvious. Wouldn't that make you want to cry? You tried to help people, and this is what they do to you. This is time he ain't getting back. Tanya says the Mammy testimony needs to be thrown out. Her deal needs to be taken away. Yeah, well, if she got on the stand and she said something different than what she told the government to secure that deal, it will be taken away. Corey, you say, what about the paying off witnesses claim the feds talking? You mean paying off Jane and her parents? Because that's the only people that they talking about in this particular case. Yeah. To answer that, if that is what you're talking about, that's what I was just saying. They testified that they didn't believe that he was giving them any money that he gave them or that they received from him. They did not believe that that was money he was giving them to keep them silent. So where's the payoff? So he wouldn't have been paying them for the videos because they didn't have the videos. And then when they want to, and remember, I don't know if you heard like the 2000 DCFS case that they have been putting out that, Rob was actually being investigated. That wasn't even the case. It was her mother. It was Susan that was actually being investigated for allowing a relationship to happen. I'm wondering, like, in 2000, like, why we didn't get that. I know the media would have picked that up quick, but that's the reason. Now we know why, because it wasn't about, it was about him, but they was investigating her, not him. Daddy, did Nike allow Von Jeans? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if that's some stuff that they're going to bring into play once the defense is up. You guys, the government is still up, and these are all the government's witnesses, and the defense team is just cross-examining these people. Um, yeah, I will keep it on in court too. But you know, he's probably thinking he want to make sure that um he's he's looking good and everything for court, and you know he's just very respectable. I know he told us in New York, when you guys come in, you don't need to waive or anything. I have too much respect for the court, and I have too much respect for the judge. I see everybody. Don't do any waving or anything like that. So that's just how he is. So he's probably saying, "No, I'm gonna take it off." Um, Somebody said, "I would like to see Avenatti sparkle baby hairs." And Miss Carl and Kim Fox on the stand. Is that possible? If they get subpoenaed, yep. Somebody said that R. Kelly or his co-defendant is supposed to be paid. Wait, Corey, that's what my whole life was just about. His co-defendant's supposed to pay. That's what the whole life. I just went over that testimony for Charles Freeman, the one that they paid to retrieve the tapes. They said especially baby hairs, lying ass. Oh, so he's back in court. So wild girl.
Is Ms. Parks testifying?
Who? Who?
I put it in chat.
Oh yeah, you got to go back and watch and listen to his whole testimony. It's all about that and how much money he received. They didn't do so. Get here tomorrow. I do it at the same time every day. Get here tomorrow on time because tomorrow's gonna be the cross examination. So you're gonna want to hear that, and it'll answer all your questions. Hey Trina. I don't even think it's gonna be a hung jury. I kind of think that he's gonna get acquittal. I can't see your comment, Tanya. You are so welcome. I got here late. Let me see. You know, AC guy. How does the outcome of the Chicago trial affect the federal trial? I think this trial could be used to actually help the federal trial, but that's just my opinion. I think I said yesterday, if I feel like if this trial had a went first, he would have been acquitted, and I think they would have just probably not even proceeded with the New York trial. I don't know, you guys, if Drea is gonna testify. I don't know who the besides for one person, I don't know who the defense witnesses is. Oh, and besides Jim Derogatis, because he was subpoenaed by Daryl McDavid's attorneys. Yeah, he looked like James Brown. Yep, and Robert was laughing at him. He just looked like just one of them. When I seen him, I said, "Oh, he's one of them nickel slick ass NIGGAs." Hold on. Tanya, I don't see. I don't see your question.
No, never mind, girl. I'll tell you later.
I'm like, I was
I'll
looking,
tell
but
you
I can't
later.
see it. Okay, so somebody said it's going so fast. Oh yeah, cannot forget Jimmy. There, you got it. How many witnesses are Kelly going to have? Hope Morton. I don't know. I don't know who their witness. Cause yes, I wish I did. Cause then I'll be able to say, how much time this is gonna take, so I know how long I gotta be here. But I don't know. Oh, damn, Bruce was there. Yes, Latoya, Bruce was there. I feel they knew that's why they rushed. Yep, Nova, I agree. The government, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 more witnesses. Thank you, Demi. I appreciate you. They need to bring charges on Drea. She shouldn't be exempt from any of this. Yeah, I agree. Things happen for a reason. These trials were needed because Mr. Kelly was so loyal to these thieves. He can say he never spoke against any of them. Unfortunately, he loses still. Yeah, that's the sad part. That is, Corey. Yes, I think she does have forensic people coming in to examine those videos. I would not put that past her. That's crucial since they admitted it into evidence. So she needs to have somebody. If she don't, I'm pretty sure McDavid's attorneys would, because you got to remember one of his charges along with Rob is receiving the child pornography. So of course they're going to want to debunk that they actually receive child pornography. So the only way you can do that is by bringing in experts. Actually, that kind of, if you think about it, when you have two different attorneys, two different sides bringing in expert witnesses and they saying the same thing, that kind of works in their favor. Hey, Shamika. Well, you see what I'm doing. So we're gonna talk tomorrow. Oh, hold on, you guys. Oh, never mind. Alrighty then. So it's not gonna be like last night. I literally laid down and felt like I was getting back up 5 minutes later. Hurry up Wednesday, 10 a.m. So just so you guys know, I'm supposed to be in court Thursday. I don't know if I'm gonna make it Friday, and I'm gonna try my hardest to get back in next week. I don't know what day yet for trial, so hoping and praying and hoping that Thursday not my last day. I don't know if I mentioned that yesterday.
If so, we appreciate you.
And I appreciate everybody on this live for taking the time to listen to me. Wait, who said who gonna check me? I heard they already at odds with baby hairs. And oh, I don't like to speak on the kids, you guys. How is Kels handling any of that? Any emotion? Well, yeah, you get some emotion. Some laughs, like, are you serious type of laughs. Don't know about Geronda. But what? How much y'all want to bet that when he come home, they gonna be crawling? Oh, you already know. That's how they do. I mean, look. As soon as what happened? What Jennifer put in that motion? As soon as that trial was over, what they writing letters to him saying, "Oh, we didn't want to do this. We were forced to do this. We were forced to say this. We were forced to say that." So that already started. So you already know if he come out for sure, that's gonna happen. I agree. I definitely agree, Miss Ty. All right, y'all. I am gonna call it a night I'm gonna call it a night for sure. Um, so tomorrow I'm gonna try to come on as early as I can because tomorrow is a full day, and I know they're gonna get it in tomorrow. So I want to be able to come on so we can actually talk about it afterwards, and we don't get so late into the night because I know a lot of people tired. So y'all be prepared. Probably, Tanya, what you think? Maybe like 7 tomorrow instead of 8.
Yeah, let's do 7.
Okay. So I'll be on tomorrow at 7. I will see you guys tomorrow. Everyone have a good night. Pray for Rob. Don't forget, pray for Rob. And we'll pray for everybody that's involved actually. And pray for everybody that's at that courthouse supporting him. You guys have a good night.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Good night.
Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome. You too. Love you too. I'll listen.
Yeah.
What did we say, 7?
7 tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
All right. Corey, 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. See you guys. Have a good night.
Bye. Bye.